We're back.
I'm Peck,
I'm Chris.
and today we are talking about the Wargames pay-per-view.
You know, Wargames is an interesting concept. I don't like it as much as World War III. That's another topic.
Right, yeah, I mean, it just kind of depends on really what your preference is. I'm kind of ambivalent. I'm really in the middle of both, honestly. I don't really have a problem with either one of them. It's just kind of stylistically.
Well, it's fun because there's going to be a war. Someone's going to cause war.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the thing is, it's one of those things where we really didn't see a lot of precursor to this. We didn't really see another version of it necessarily, but we've seen a lot of imitation since then.
Absolutely, and they always say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Absolutely.
I know it's a concept that's missed. A lot of internet fans, or just fans in general, would like to see it back. It's one of those things that Vince McMahon has robbed the fans of, because it's a WCW/NWA type of concept. So we haven't seen it.
The WWE has their own interest in not having it because they've really perpetuated the Hell in a Cell concept, which in and of itself was really not. I mean, people remember it more for, Taker and Mankind, but it really wasn't, as itself, as a concept and a structure, really all that more inventive.
It was basically the Chamber of Horrors type of cage, just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Same kind of thing, though. Same kind of concept. The ring, the cage is like surrounding the ring. The entire ring, you can go outside the cage, or you can go inside the cage, but there's an outside area. So that's what's neat about it. The interesting part of that was when Michaels, got thrown off that. It wasn't really that high, but it was neat to see because it never really had been done before. I think when someone just actually fell off the outside the cage like that and hit the tables.
Too, we never had we always kind of saw it teased when somebody would throw one leg over the top and whatnot, but we also never saw an opportunity for that much space to be utilized on a high object. I mean, we would have the top of a ladder, and all your drama would be focused on one point instead of all this potential space.
It was a neat concept. Yeah. With Wargames, the whole thing kind of screwed. Excuse me, from there is actually a fact that some wrestling fans know, most know. I hope you guys know. There was 3 pay-per-views that carried Wargames. There was the Great American Bash, is where it spewed from. Wrestle War, which was a couple of years they did that, and then they did Fall Brawl, and Fall Brawl is the main one that I'm most Wrestle War and Fall Brawl are the ones that I remember War Games. I wasn't really part of the Bash thing because I just kind of missed that when I was growing up, but it all stemmed from the 4 Horsemen, Dusty Rhodes, Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff type of feud, and it was a great place to showcase the 4 Horsemen feuding with the group. So. Right. It was a lot of fun to watch, and the first one was the Horsemen, all 5 of them, because they had J.J. Dillon with them. Mm-hmm. And then they had, against Dusty Rhodes, the Road Warriors, Nikita Koloff, and Paul Ellering, their manager, which I was kind of okay, managers in there, that's fine. Not bad. I thought it was pretty good, though. The first one, the inaugural one, they did the touring Great American Bash, so they had it a couple different places. If you buy the VHS, they have 2 War Games on a VHS. So I think WCW/NWA would definitely give you the quality and quantity over just quantity, like the WWF at the time. They would just give you a lot of quantity on their shows, but it wasn't
pretty much. You would have a lot of filler and mid-card shows, and you would never really... WWE, they would have a couple of tag matches, but it was usually 4-on-4, or 2-on-2. That was usually about it, unless Survivor Series. You never really got to see 2 stables really going at it.
No, and a lot of their, matches that would be on a card would just be a lot of filler matches where they're 5-10 minutes of just kind of boring wrestling with no rhyme or reason, where the NWA would really spice things up and make you give a crap about what their feud was, what their story was.
Fill up their card.
They were smart. They knew what they were doing, man. They were ahead of their time, and it's a shame it all imploded, but that's another topic. But War Games 87 came off without a hitch. I never actually saw War Games 88 on video. They put it... I always saw it because they actually brought that Tower of Doom concept in, that triple cage, the next year at the Bash.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was the War Games, but actually they did have a War Games. It was Dr. Death, Nikita Koloff, Luger, Paul Ellering, and I think Dusty Rhodes, against the Horsemen. Mm-hmm. And that was good, too, something different. And over time, the War Games concept continued, and they had different groups. 89 was the Samoan SWAT team, the Freebirds, against Dr. Death, Road Warriors, and Midnight Express. So that was a cool, different kind of whole group altogether, because the Horsemen...
Because, they really didn't get a whole lot of airtime as, basically their day in the sun in like a main event style match like that.
Yeah.
We'd never really seen that before up until that time.
Yeah, I mean, because it was just different. It was kind of like neat to showcase like the tag team division like that too.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good bash '89. The Horsemen broke up, but still, you still had enough talent there to
And
keep
that's
the War
another
Games
radical
going.
departure that we miss from today that we really don't have. We have such a weak tag team division
Oh,
at the
yeah.
company that we're really not used to seeing that sort of thing.
Well, it's interesting too. It just seems it's kind of gone by the wayside, the tag team type of division.
Yeah.
Pretty much almost in every company. Ring of Honor keeps it going, but
how well do they do with it?
Yeah.
They end up splitting up every team they have too.
and I wonder why that is. Is it just something they just don't want to put a lot of time in, or what? I don't
It's
know.
a combination, I
Managers.
think, of longevity and also wanting to push individual stars and seeing what they get.
Yeah, I think it's tough maybe to market some teams or get some teams that actually, the territories are gone too. So it's a lot of times just guys from developmental getting together because they're put together instead of them having that natural. I mean, some tag teams are put
Squashing them all
together.
into one match, so
Yeah.
they could get 4 guys involved instead of just 1-on-1.
Exactly. Well, some teams that are great tag teams are put together just by a whim, but some just either go through training together or they have a natural
Some of
charisma
them
together and it
function,
works.
Some of them don't. Like,
Yeah.
just a real quick point and then get back to War Games. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you can tell, like, some of them, you throw Big Show and Jericho together. That worked.
Yeah.
You remember when they tried the, what the heck were they called? The 2-man power trip when it was Austin and Triple H and it just didn't look right?
Yeah, that was
off.
That was like one of those tough like main eventer tag teams. They kind of it sounds good on paper.
It
then
wasn't
when
Austin Aries and Bobby Roode at all.
Nah.
That actually worked.
Which was neat too. That had such a good rhythm and.
Yeah, they really did. They
Yeah.
just teamed up recently on TNA. I was like, wow, I kind of missed this.
Bobby Roode's amazing. He needs another run at that title. Get it away from Lashley right now because it's just no one. It's tough. That's a whole other topic too. I'm sorry. War Games '90. I don't really remember happening. I don't.
I
I'm
was
sure.
1, so
Yeah, I mean, I can go look here real quick to see if it happened, but I'm sure it did on the Bash if they had like a
possibly the match itself, but not the actual pay-per-view.
yeah, like they had the Great American Bash. It was Sting and Flair for the belt, but
It did exist. Greensboro.
yeah, let me see. Well, we're gonna take a look real quick because it's like one of those ones. It's either they did like a touring thing and they didn't show it, on television, or it just never happened. I don't know. We're looking at Wrestle War '90. I don't remember it being on there, so
Flair beat Luger.
yeah, doesn't look like it. Let me see if I could actually find the match though, because 90 was weird because it was like 91. 91 had 2 War Games matches, but War Games I don't think it did.
No, it's not.
Let me check one more thing, but I just don't remember it. I'm sure if they did the Great American Bash tour because they still did it back then. They had it like a house shows type of thing, but I don't really remember that happening. Yeah, not really seeing it. I'm sure it happened. Then there's War Games '91 that happened twice. Wrestle War. Now this is the War Games I was introduced to. This was the big one.
Mm-hmm.
This was the Steiner brothers, Flying Brian Pillman, and Sting against the Four Horsemen, which I at the time thought, wow, this is a great line.
Oh yeah, that's an all-star lineup right there.
That's poetry in motion. Like you got Flying Brian, who was like a hot singles wrestler at the time. Sting, who was in his prime. The Steiners that were just awesome against the
really stylistically different group, but still a good, solid veteran group. Kind of
Yeah.
like a combination of speed them up and slow them down. But it was a really, really you knew you were going to get a good match just because of the ring science involved.
And to me, that's the WCW that I grew up with. Those 4 guys right there just signified WCW for me. And then there was the Horsemen of Sid Vicious, Barry Windham, Anderson, and Flair, which I really didn't think was that bad of a Horseman group. And people knock on Sid. Yeah, okay, I get where they're coming from. But at the same point, he really wasn't that bad.
Honestly,
He had a good look.
Psycho Sid as a heel is one of the most... Him and JBL are 2 of the most underrated professional wrestling heels. And also, in Psycho Sid's case, a face. I mean, he had such a legitimate presence that even when he was the blatant heel against Shawn Michaels, he got the crowd to turn completely.
Yeah, he was.
He had every opportunity to be the man, and he really just should have ran with it. I wish he would have, because he had such a presence and a look about him, plus a style. I mean, he would just dominate everyone, but he could still have a good match, contrary to what Shawn Michaels said.
Well, he was in excellent shape. Like I mean, to me, like looking at a dominant group, he fit right in with the Horsemen.
Oh, absolutely.
People say no, but I just think he did. Like,
Well, think about this from a historical perspective. Barry Windham, Ric Flair, both multi-time world champions in certain companies. Sid Vicious, let's be honest, 2-time WWF champion, 2-time WCW champion. I don't see where he doesn't fit in. That's
Yeah,
a perfect fit right there. You're world champion of two of the strongest professional wrestling companies, even WCW when they were still loaded, when you had Goldberg, Hogan, Sting, everyone in the late 90s, they handed the belt to Sid.
Yeah,
so, I mean, that kind of trust and that kind of roster, to work with The Undertaker, to work with Shawn Michaels, to work with Bret Hart, you don't get to do that, without being good. And then in WCW, some of the people he feuded with, and his runs in WWF, facing Hogan at WrestleMania, all that stuff. I mean, you don't get to do that if you're a scrub. You don't.
Yeah, I always thought he was...
And really, Arn Anderson, he fulfilled kind of the heavy technical wrestling veteran role for that, and he was a horseman through and through.
Yeah, I just didn't see anything wrong with it. I thought...
I don't either. Okay, Tully Blanchard wasn't there, but so what?
Somebody did get hurt, though. I don't remember if it was... I think it was Anderson, actually, because they put Zbyszko in as an alternate for one of them. I think Anderson wasn't actually in the War Games match because he got hurt.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, that's fine, too. Zbyszko's a good wrestler. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, people knock on Sid. I thought he fit right in. I mean, he just had that attitude. He had the look.
Plus,
he
brought something different to the group because he was one of the, he was the more giant version. I mean, Sting was a big guy in his own right. And, Wyndham wasn't a small man. But, Sting brought more, Sid brought more to that.
Because when Sting was with the Horsemen, it was okay, but he just didn't really... It was just for storyline reasons. He really didn't fit in. But they always tried to get Tully Blanchard back, and I listened to his shoot interviews. He could just not... The biggest thing with Blanchard was that they could never come to agreement on a contract, because they were kind of screwing around with him a little bit, too, and not being forthright. But I think if Blanchard would have came back, he would have fit in just fine again. I mean, I think the rhythm would have been there, but I still think Sid would have been a star with or without the Horsemen. It don't matter.
Yeah.
It's just got that look. But War Games 91 was good. And then they had like another one. It was like, Elegante and like Sting and Luger and the Yellow Dog, which was Brian Pillman. It was like a gimmick they were doing at the time against Sullivan the Gang. I think Black Blood and somebody else, but it was a forgettable War Games, but it was like the touring one. Or Nikita Koloff. It was like the touring War Games thing or whatever they were doing. So that's cute. And then War Games 92 was good too. It was a perfect matchup. The Sting Squadron, which was Sting, Nikita Koloff, Barry Windham, Dustin Rhodes, and Ricky Steamboat, against the Dangerous Alliance, which was again Anderson, Zbyszko, Bobby Eaton, Rick Rude, Austin. Great talent there both ways. So it was a great, I guess opposition type of thing.
Really even balanced teams.
Yeah, 92 was a great year, but they blew it when they got rid of the Dangerous Alliance. That was a bad move. They shouldn't have did that so soon and quickly. And that's the thing that you'd watch over the years with WCW. They'd have a hot thing and they'd burn it off fast.
They get rid of it too quick.
They could have kept going at least another year with that.
They did that with a lot of gimmicks. They did that with a lot of stables, and they did that with a lot of feuds too. To be honest.
Well, Heyman was smart. He took the Dangerous Alliance to ECW. He had his own group.
He had Bigelow. He had.
I know he was like Don Morocco and like all them together.
He had Bigelow. He had the franchise.
Oh, that was the Triple Threat. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Dangerous Alliance. It was like in '93. It was like Don Morocco and a whole bunch of other guys, but yeah, not bad. Then what they did was instead of we went for the Bash War Games, the Wrestle War. In '93 they didn't have Wrestle War, which I thought was dumb. They should have just kept it. But they took the Fall Brawl name, which was the Clash of the Champions in September, and made it a pay-per-view in September. And they had Fall Brawl featuring the War Games. So they moved it over to War Games in '93. And this was a really unique team. I wasn't really sure if it was supposed to be like the Road Warriors, Sting, and the Bulldog against the Harlem Heat, Vader, and Sid, which I think would have been excellent.
Yeah.
They didn't really do it that way because I think Animal was still hurt. So Animal was the team captain. They brought in Dustin Rhodes, and it was supposed to be him, Hawk, British Bulldog, and Sting. And then I think Hawk got hurt or something. They put the Shockmaster in there, who was okay. I mean,
the infamous debut of the Shockmaster.
If that whole thing wouldn't have happened, I think he would have been fine. It would have,
Chris, he was wearing a Star Wars mask painted gold, and everyone knew it. It would not have worked.
If he didn't trip, though, he would have had some leeway,
Still, it would have just been they would have had to change the gimmick 2 weeks later.
But I thought it was one of those War Games that I thought was a blunder. It was just it was good, but it wasn't. Because it was good on paper, and then when they actually did it, the match wasn't... I like 10-man teams instead of 8. I think it just makes it last longer and it's better, but it was just too fast. As soon as the other guy the Shopmaster got in the ring, it was a minute or two and he started Booker T tapped that. I hate War Games like that where you let him battle on for a while.
Yeah, pretty much.
Don't cheat the fans like that. But I mean there's some good matches at these shows too, just besides War Games. At the Bashes, there was a lot of great title defenses by Flair, you know, and Luger and all that. There were a lot of great matches. Wargames '89 was excellent. It was like Flair and Steamboat for the title. Then it was like Funk. I don't know if it was Funk and Sting, I want to say.
I believe it was, but I'm not 100% sure.
Let me check
on
this.
that one.
This is like one of those ones that's going to bother me. Bash.
It's on the tip of your tongue. You
Yeah.
can remember it, but you just can't remember who exactly it was.
There was like 3 main events. It was really good. Muda, I know it was Moon and Sting. Who the hell was? Let me take a look here.
Might have been...
Okay, sorry. Ric Flair and Terry Funk, which was good.
Okay, yeah, those two feuded, but it was Sting and...
And Muda. Muda, yeah. I don't think that was their first... I think it was their first ever pay-per-view match these two guys met, which was pretty good, too. And then they had Luger and Steamboat. This was like one of those weird ones where they switched it up on it.
Quick question. Who's in better shape right now, Muda or Sting?
Jeez, that's a toughie. I mean, Muda, you know...
I think Muda looked better in the ring last time I saw him.
He did, but boy, are they cradling him, though. He's not doing much. I mean, the bare minimum...
Hey, his pay-per-view match, the tag match, was, I think, longer than Sting's last match against Magnus. So.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, Wargames '89 was excellent. The whole pay-per-view, they had a Battle Royal, too. 2-ring Battle Royal. I mean, you got your money's worth with Bash '89. The Bash '90 was cool because it was like... It was kind of like a blow-up because they had Sting's dudes with attitudes. It was like Paul Orndorff, Junkyard Dog, and like Elegante and Sting and Luger or whatever. All together as like a group. And they were feuding with the Horsemen. So it was like them. It was like Junkyard Dog, Paul Orndorff, and Elegante against Barry Windham, Savicius, and Anderson. And Ole Anderson was like taped. Or maybe, I think Ole...
Was Elegante Giant Gonzalez?
Yeah.
Okay.
Elegante, I think, was tied up to Ole Anderson.
That had to look funny.
Yeah, it was handcuffed to him. Yeah, it was one of the stipulation matches. Let me see if it... Because I think... who was it? It was like a 6-man tag. Let me find this real quick, because it's going to bother me until I find the match. Yeah, okay, I was right. I think Elegante was like... He wasn't handcuffed to Ole. He was handcuffed to Ole like at another time or something. Yeah, that sounds wrong. It was like a Clash of the Champions or something. But that was a cool blow-off match. So there's always like... It seems like in the Bashes, there's always like the Horsemen are feuding with somebody. And there's the blow-off, payoff, yeah.
They were a staple of that. That was like kind of like their time.
I like Bash '90 because it was interesting too. You had Harley Race against Tommy Rich, 2 former NWA champions going at it. The match was kind of quick, but it was neat to see these 2 guys go at it. Also
because the match was taking place in 1990 at this time.
Yeah, everyone could actually still go. A lot of great tag matches. I wanted to look at the Bash from... the Bash '91 was pretty good. The main event was that Barry Windham against Luger, because it was supposed to be Barry Windham against Flair, but Luger against Flair, I'm sorry. Luger was going to feud with Flair, and they were going to have a blow-off type of match, but Flair ended up leaving, going to WWF, so it ended up being Barry Windham's step in, which was still a good match, but they turned Luger heel, which, in the long run, I think it was good, but at the time I didn't like it. You know, no fan wants to see their hero
as a heel.
Yeah, it's like, oh, man.
Yeah, that was me with Shawn Michaels, and I found myself defending it.
Sorry if we're going backwards here. I just want to say one other thing about the Bash '88. This was like this was like the breaking up of the Horsemen, because Blanchard and Anderson went to WWF right after the Bash. So like pretty much once it was still touring, but once they had a certain match or whatever, they were done. I think it was the actual pay-per-view thing. They were done. They dropped the belts and they left. They just gave them up. So that was the Bash has a lot of meaning for the Horsemen. A lot of turnover and stuff, too. Barry Windham defeated Dusty Rhodes. I think that's when Ronnie Garvin helped, too. And he turned on Rhodes.
The other thing is, like, whenever the Bash and War Games went away, it was such an end of an era because we remembered all of these teams playing. And we remembered them being such a major presence in those matches.
Definitely. It's good stuff.
It's kind of like whenever the Cowboys had their run of Super Bowls or the Bills, and after that, you never saw them again.
Yeah, it's like the end of an era, really. Do you think, like Fall Brawl '93. Do you think? Did you ever see You never saw like the Rick Rude against Ric Flair match, huh?
I'm not sure. I did see Rude against Sting, but I'm not sure if I ever saw him against Flair.
It was pretty good.
It would have been a while ago.
They had like a good feud going on. I want to find Fall Brawl '94 was disappointing, and I'll tell you why. I thought the whole thing was just sloppy. Like it was just
94 and 95 were not the best years.
Yeah,
they
it wasn't
all the way across wrestling. I mean, you remember the '95 Rumble?
Yeah, that was bad. That's like Jobber Central.
Big Dick Murdoch.
Oh God, he wasn't a jobber by any means, but he was just so out of place.
What is he doing?
Yeah, they had so many jobbers in that. That was like Job Fest. '95 was bad. That's one of the worst, I think, Rumbles ever.
Being a bad Johnny B. Bad against Steven Regal.
Yeah, it was an okay match.
Mark
They always tried to book Mero as like this technical wrestler, and it just didn't work. And I got so sick of watching
Wild
him.
Man gimmick better. It fit him better.
It was Johnny B. Bad, basically, just a little bit crazier, but
yeah,
I get what you mean. This was actually, here's another ending. Cactus Jack left. He loser leaves title match against Kevin Sullivan. So that was interesting, and he left, went to ECW.
Duggan beat Steve Austin in 35 seconds.
That was
another problem right there.
That was another, like, Hogan's buddies coming in type of thing, and,
I never liked Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Gotta be honest. Hated him in WWF, hated him in WCW, hated him on Sunday Night Heat, hated him.
Well, he's just one of those entertainers, he's not really, like, the best.
He's one of those people, I don't care if they give you an American flag, it's not gonna make me like you, dummy.
Ho! I used to go, no!
I used to text you, Hacksaw Jim Duggan has escaped from Sunday Night Heat when he would show up on Raw.
And he always would. he would just, he climbed out of his janitor outfit and put his basketball shorts on and started beating people up. Man, it was usually Charlie Haas, too, that had to deal with that.
My friend does have a great story about how he allegedly did a line of coke with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, but I cannot confirm or deny.
I'm sure it's true. And that must have been frustrating for Austin, because he was going to have another great match with Steamboat, but Steamboat got hurt, and he was out, and that was actually Steamboat's last WCW appearance.
Yeah.
At least on a pay-per-view. I mean, I'm sure he was on Worldwide till, like, October, November that year, whatever. But Austin, I mean, that must have really pissed him off, because he's having all these great matches, and then all of a sudden have to lose like that. I mean, they had a feud at Havoc, and I think Austin, I don't know if he beat him or not. I think he did. But, pretty wonderful against Stars and Stripes. Not a bad match. That was pretty good. Two solid tag teams. Paul Roman, Orndorff, and wrestling Bagwell and the Patriot. That was another one that they had a rematch at Halloween Havoc. So a lot of these matches just spilled over to Halloween Havoc.
Right.
Triple threat match kind of thing. It really wasn't triple threat. It was like a triangle. Basically, it was just two matches. It was Vader against the Angel, and then whoever won that took on Sting. It was all right. I think the whole concept was kind of boring, and I think the pay-per-view should have been a lot better. They should have had more matches. You only had 6 matches on your card.
And the Wargames match was, I'm sorry, that looks like a really weak lineup.
I mean, yeah, it is. It's terrible. I would get right. The Armstrong family against Steve Kern and Bobby Eaton, Bad Attitude. That's all right. That was a dark match, but yeah, it's nothing exciting here. Yeah, Wargames.
Whenever you're headlined by the Nasty Boys and the Rhodes, I'm sorry.
Well, here's the one thing. They did book it right. Just like storyline wise, because they brought Dusty Rhodes and Dustin Rhodes back together. They hugged, and like his dad came out of retirement to support him. And then they went to a bar and they found the Nasty Boys and they made them face. I get it, it's cool, but it was just the stud stable was lame. Terry Funk, okay, Anderson is okay too. Bunkhouse Buck, I never really liked.
The name doesn't even really fit though. What the stud stable?
Yeah, because it's not
Terry Funk and Arn Anderson. Like I expected that to be like. Good-looking blue chip prospect guys, not old veterans.
Well, I don't know why they just couldn't call it like Parker Stable, because Colonel Robert Parker was like I don't know, it was just stupid. It's like an old Robert Fuller and Jimmy Golden. They're both like I believe Jimmy Golden was actually Bunkhouse Buck. They're like an old Southern Territory wrestlers. They're like brother-in-laws or something, so of course they're gonna stick together. So that was like their old gimmick or whatever, but it was lame and boring. A forgettable War Games at best. But an interesting fact, this match was replayed on the final edition of Worldwide from '01.
Huh.
So that's cool. War Games '95 Fall Brawl was pretty much a snooze fest. A lot of matches with no real rhyme or reason. Pretty much almost all was pretty much forgettable as '94. I mean, you had Anderson and Flair go at it, which is interesting. But here's where we got the Hulkamania.
This was such a dark day for me. The Renegade lost the World Television title. I cried. The day they took the belt from that man, although you remember when we watched him at Bash at the Beach against Orndorff, and they hated the Renegade?
Yeah, I mean, they booed him. But he wasn't that good. I mean, he was just bad.
That was the whole point, but why waste the television title on him?
I know. Well, this was like WrestleCrap 101 here, because you got Hogan, Savage, Luger, and Sting, which nothing wrong with these guys. It was actually supposed to be Vader. But
he went to WWE.
Yeah, he subbed for, Luger subbed for him. Against the Dungeon of Doom, which was Kamala, Brutus Beefcake playing the Zodiac. Earthquake is the Shark or whatever, John Tena, and Ming. uh, and Sullivan managed them or whatever.
That's
Yeah,
pretty weak heel.
yeah, it was just so forgettable. I mean, it was that hokey like 1990. I think 1995 in general was just so hokey for wrestling.
They were trying to recapture like the glory of the '80s, and it just I don't know what they were going for. I didn't like it.
Wargames '96. As we move on, yeah, it was bad. I can just tell you, Wargames '96 through '98 is the NWO against somebody. This was like the new.
You know what else is interesting though is we look down these cards and we see the match times. Have you noticed that the cruiserweights are getting more and more time as we went along?
Oh yeah,
Because
I
we
mean,
put the last Eddie Guerrero match we saw against Alex Wright, it was like 6 minutes. Now we're at like 17. So they're really starting to give more time to the more active light heavyweights.
yeah, that's for sure. I think too because that might have been on television. That was a television match.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, definitely, you can see like
the
their money.
things are changing a little bit.
Well, Horsemen were actually brought back into the War Games in '96, to a degree. There was actually supposed to be the Horsemen against the NWO, but then Luger and Sting got together. Whatever. I
Matter
don't
of
know.
fact, we had multiple cruiserweights on this one. We had a Triple A title defense with Conan against Juventud.
It
We
was.
had Mysterio against Super Calo.
It was interesting too. They didn't actually have the belt on there that night. I have it. I'm like, where's the belt? They didn't actually.
They didn't have the Triple A title.
No, which is I guess I don't know they couldn't show it legally or whatever.
Possibly.
Um, Savage against the Giant. But it's better. Malenko and Jericho was good. That was good. That was a good one. Super Calo against Mysterio was good too. Because Calo did some crazy moves. I mean, it was good. Good cruiserweight action. You had the main events. You had the Harlem Heat and the Nasty Boys. Not bad. And then the whole NWO thing. This is when Sting. He said he was with the Horsemen, but then he shows up with the NWO, and it's the fake Sting, a.k.a. the Cobra. That's the guy who played him, Jeff Farmer. So it was good. It was good. It was a fun, they did it Royal Rumble kind of style where they didn't have the guys right by the cage.
Right.
They had them come out of the locker room. It was pretty cool.
Kind of like Elimination Chamber a little bit.
Yeah. 97 wasn't too great. I ordered it, and I remember watching it live thinking this really wasn't that worth the time. It was like the B-list NWO, which is Bagwell, Nash, Six, and Conan, against the Horsemen again.
The B-list Horsemen.
Yeah.
Except for Flair.
It was
Hennig.
yeah, I mean, it was just Hennig just turning on Flair, which, whatever. I liked Wrath and Mortis against the Faces of Fear. That was good.
Yeah, that was good because they were like two of their more, I
Look at
guess,
this.
newer monsters.
Speaking of cruiserweight match, too, 18 minutes.
Yeah.
With,
That's right, and Ultimate Dragon.
yeah, almost 19 minutes of a match there.
That's right, one of the biggest cruiserweights I've ever seen, except for Abyss and Samoa Joe and TNA.
I know, like, Alex Wright was definitely out of place.
He
But
was like 6'5".
well, then they complain about poor pay-per-view buys. Like, look at 97, the height of their popularity, 11,000 in attendance.
This looks
So.
like a... yeah, but I mean, compare that to TNA today, that's pretty good.
Well, I know, but like that's why people get all like hot headed about like TNA only drawing like 5,000 on a big whatever pay-per-view. But I mean, this is
11,000 is pretty good for that.
Yeah. Just saying, like, War Games '98 was interesting because it was the team concept, but it was different. There was 9 guys, and it was like Team WCW, Team NWO Hollywood, and then Team NWO Wolfpack. Star-studded cast here. WCW was Page, Piper, and Warrior. Hollywood was Hogan, Bret Hart. I don't know why they put Stevie Ray there.
I don't know why they put Bret Hart in the NWO period.
That was such a mess. And then Wolfpack was Nash, Luger, and Sting. A fun war game still. Like they had to cater to the Ultimate Warriors, inability to wrestle, and they had to knock everybody out at the end and just have him and Sting feud, or him and Hogan go at it. Because heaven forbid anybody put on a decent match at the end if they don't have to. But it was great on paper. It was great until Warrior came. Then the whole thing went to shit because Stevie Ray or somebody brought a baseball bat or something and knocked everybody out, and it was just stupid. But in a typical WCW fashion, they cater to the egomaniacs. Fall Brawl 99 did not bring us any War Games, which I didn't understand why. It had a great War Games with Sting and Hogan and Goldberg. And Diamond Dallas Page against like Sid Vicious and
Who the hell was Berlin? Oh, that was
Alex
the guy
Wright,
you were
yeah.
telling me about. Yeah, that was Alex Wright.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was a good, decent fall brawl. Tons of matches. I mean, there was a lot. About 12 matches here, so. Attendance, definitely dropped. We went from 11,000 to 7,000. So
I never knew Vicious was a U.S. title or U.S. champion.
Yeah, right before World.
The only match I even remember with him and Benoit was the one Benoit beat him to win the. Didn't he win the world title for like 2 seconds?
Yeah, that was like in January. Yeah, that was a mess. God, I saw that live. That was a
And it's
mess.
not like officially counted.
Yeah, because it was like one of those things where like they covered their ass because they told Sid Vicious make sure when because they were sure I think they were thinking he was going to jump. They weren't sure. Make sure you put your leg under the rope
So
so it
we can
didn't
have
count.
controversy.
Yeah. Fall Brawl 2000, no War Games, but they actually gave us a War Games for free. It was on Monday Night Nitro.
Yeah.
It was Vince Russo's group of like Steiner, Jarrett, Nash, him, and against Chronic. I think it was Booker T and Goldberg or something. Decent. I mean, for the time and the
for
period.
what they had there, yeah.
There's somebody else too with them. I don't know if it was the cat or the hair. Somebody. Let me see.
Honestly, at this point, WCW was trying way too hard to be ECW. I mean, I noticed a scaffold match. I noticed stuff like that, and they just weren't. They filled up the card with hardcore matches when they didn't need to. I didn't like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, here it was. I'm sorry. Sting, Booker T, Goldberg, and Chronic against Nash, Jarrett, Scott Steiner, and the Harris Brothers. So it was Russo's group against the Cats group or whatever. That was the big thing. It was good, but it was the actual. They combined it and they made it the Triple Cage War Games. I liked it. It was free, so that's good for me. And it made up for them not doing it Fall Brawl '99 for actually having that pay per view, but not having War Games. So I'm glad they made up for it. Do you have like a favorite War Games that you would pick? It's tough. There's so
yeah,
many.
it really is. I mean, for me, like our years that we like wrestling best is a little different. For me, I loved from '96 onward. You were more the early '90s, but I think just for pure curiosity's sake, I think '90 and '91 for me, just to go back and watch some of that, see what it was more like and get more in depth in that, and not have the same people have been put over for 10 years. I think I would have to go with one of those two.
Okay. I don't. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah, because because then it was kind of like I never really got to see the start of Sting's ascent. I only remember black and white Sting when he never wrestled half the time because he was gone for a year, and that's when I started watching WWF. So for me, it would be kind of like going back and learning my history again.
It was interesting. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
To see all that happen with Sting and all that, and to see War Games. I mean, there's a lot of history with that.
And the thing about early WCW is there's a lot of people that won the World Heavyweight title that people were like, wait, they were a world champion in WCW? No. I have friends that still don't believe Vader was WCW champion, and he was.
Oh, I mean...
They just go by what they did in other companies and said, no, stupid, look at it.
I mean, there's wrestlers today, people have no idea were even in WCW. I'm like, yes, they were there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
There's also the TNA War Games. TNA brought War Games back for Wednesday, Bloody Wednesday, and it was like Dusty Rhodes thing. It was in September 2003. I don't really know who. I can't really remember exactly who was all in it, but Shane Douglas, the America's Most Wanted, Jarrett, all of them were in it. It was good. It was a good War Games, but they only had one ring.
Yeah.
I'm like, come on, just get the 2 rings. I hate when promotions do this. They do it all the time.
They downsize everything and try to pay tribute to something, and it doesn't work.
MLW did it right. They did the Extreme War Games with the Extreme Horsemen against the ECW kind of group. It was really good.
Yeah.
Those guys did a good job. They did it the right way and the way it should have been done. So mad props to MLW. They did theirs in 2003 as well. And now we have Lockdown. And Lockdown is essentially the War Games without 2 rings.
Right, just one and similar kind of concept, especially Lethal Lockdown.
Yeah, I mean...
when the roof works.
Exactly.
You remember Sting dragging the trash cans
that was
down because the thing didn't deploy?
We've sat through so many horrible TNA pay-per-views and events. We deserve a medal. We've been there through it all, man. And we still watch it because we're dumb. But to sit there and watch Sting just carry the trash can down with like that whole pay-per-view was so bad.
I turned to you and said, "Is this it?" And you said, "Yeah." I said, well, "What happened? Where's the roof?" You said, "I don't think it's working."
Yeah, they're too lazy to put it up. That whole pay-per-view was the shits. What was that? Was that last year? That was 2013.
I think it was 2 years ago.
No, that was 13. No, because that would have been Sting's last.
I thought the roof worked.
No, this one was.
No, they had a lockdown in 2014.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but the last one that we saw.
Wait, didn't we? No, we didn't. I don't remember.
They had lockdown. We just didn't care.
Yeah, we ordered it. Remember, because was that the one where Jeff Hardy was dressed up like that thing?
Yeah, that was a mess. But at least they like. I mean, I fell asleep during almost the entire lockdown match this year because I was just tired, and I wake up and I just hear Jeff Hardy screaming at the top of his lungs.
That's Willow, by the way. If you don't know who Willow is, look at it and laugh.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be a play on his indie character, which, I'm sure everyone in South Carolina remembers. None of us do.
Yeah, it's not Willow Offgood from the actual good feature film from '88. No,
Yeah,
it's
and it's not
this.
even his full name because legally they can't use it, which is Will o' the Wisp. So we were really confused.
Yeah, it was. God, that was so bad. But the year
But yeah, the
before,
lockdown concept, I did like it. It was different, and the
Yeah.
fact that we had every match contested in it was nice instead of just one or two.
that was good. That was giving. I mean, that's what I didn't like about that 2013 one. They only had like 3 matches in the cage. I'm like, stop being like WWE. I mean, just the laziness of all that whole pay-per-view was just horrendous. But yeah, Lockdown, if you want your War Games fix, either watch Lockdown or go support your local indie promotion that has a War Games match.
That has a budget and a cage.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to see much more than a ladder match at a lot of your other ones, but
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them still do it, so you can get your War Games fix, through TNA or your local promotions, and it's great. I don't really have a favorite War Games either. It's really tough to pin down. There's so many good ones, so many bad ones.
and then there's so many just individual War Games matches too that it's like, God, I don't even know which one I'd pick.
Yeah, like to pick a favorite, like either between the Bash, Wrestle
I usually just go
War.
by the whole card. That's the way I usually determine it.
Wrestle War 92 is up there because they had Flying Brian against the Z-Man, an excellent cruiserweight match.
Yeah.
They had Tatsumi Fujinami and Hikagiro Kazuka, or whatever his name was, against the Steiner brothers. And Rick Steiner does this belly-to-belly suplex in midair. He reverses it. It's amazing. That was great technical wrestling. And a lot of the card wasn't too bad, but it was entertaining enough to watch. And then the main event was great. That's one of my favorites. If I'd have to put it in there,
That'd probably be your pick.
one of them,
Subject
yeah.
to change,
It's
but
tight.
It's kind of like the first instinct that pops into your head.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of grew up with the Wrestle War and then the Fall Brawl more, I guess, than the Bash. But War Games is such a great concept, though. It's a great blow-off. People thought they would happen this year with the Shield against Triple H and them, and I'm like, no. But, it's a great concept to just... It was like their WrestleMania kind of thing for
Honestly,
the Horsemen.
I don't think that was strong enough. Cobbling together Evolution, a month and a half before WrestleMania? I'm sorry, that's not strong enough to make me care.
I think it would have been like a good thing, like for the Nexus to blow off against a group, like Cena, like guys getting together to defeat the Nexus. That's
the way
what
they
kind
did
of thing.
that completely fell apart, and we can talk about that one day too. How badly that was booked. That could be another topic for another day.
Yeah, see, I wasn't really paying attention to most of it, but I know like
I saw the whole thing, and I'm still confused.
Is that Wade Barrett guy like a main eventer? Or no. Why do they do that?
He's like the IC level guy. Like he's always IC champion, but he always gets hurt, and his gimmick gets repackaged.
Yeah, they just know. But I think War Games was an excellent concept. I think so many stars were made and so many great memories were a part of it. And, when we post this, guys, feel free to talk about your favorite War Games,
Yeah, actually,
discuss it.
in the comments section, or, even if you just want to shoot us a thing on our contact information, just let us know what you think, just no arguments or whatnot, but, just let us know, hey, man, this was a favorite one, or, go back and look at this, or you remember this match, stuff like that. Get the conversation going,
Get off your butts and talk about it. Well, we thank you for this special podcast. Stay tuned for many more to come.
Yeah, we like to do a good mix of past and current, and this is one of our little past ones for you guys, and we hope you enjoy it. Hopefully it inspires you to dust off the VHS or the DVD conversions and watch War Games. I'm Peck.
I'm Chris.
Thank you.